Day 3 of trying to feel more Asian in my not so Asian life. So today we are making something called kimbap. I think I'm pronouncing that right. You know what? Never mind. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. But I came across this recipe on a TikToker, Chef Chris. Thank you so much for everyone who suggested him to me. I love his account and this is his recipe. And it just reminded me of the kimchi, egg, and rice that I usually eat in the morning. So we're going to give it a try. So I'm kind of interested in knowing how you guys make your rice. I know there's a lot of different ratios out there, but I like to cook with jasmine rice. I was taught by my mother that you do 2 cups per the first cup and then 1 cup of water per each additional cup of rice. So basically it's a 1-to-1 plus 1 cup. And that's how I've always done it. But I have a Thai friend who makes hers just using her fingertip. She taught me that you just fill the water up past the rice and you stick your finger in and it's double whatever height the rice comes at is what the water should come at, which I'm realizing I should have done this time because I definitely didn't use enough water. I lost track of my count of cups, I'm realizing right now, but the rice is still really good. So one of the reasons why I wanted to cook some Asian foods to try to reconnect to who I used to be or who I am is because I was hoping that the smells and the taste would unlock some latent memories or at least some comforting feelings that I may have deep down, because my adoption records make sure to mention my food preferences and kind of what I ate. So that's kind of where we're at right now. All right, don't drag me for how I cut my green onions because this is just my lazy way of doing it and it just gets them the perfect width. Chef Chris uses strips of seaweed and white sesame seeds, but I don't have that. But I do have this amazing rice topper that's a blend of black sesame seeds, white sesame seeds, and seaweed. So that's what I'm using. Like I said, one of my favorite brunch, lunch, dinner, breakfast, whatever meals is white rice with a fried egg and green onions and then kimchi. It's just, I love it. So I did pick up a fresh jar of kimchi from the Asian market when I was last there. And oh my gosh, does it smell and taste delicious. I do want to try my hand on making fresh homemade kimchi, but that's another episode.
Want some food?
That looks amazing.
One of the things that I love about Asian culture and just, I don't know, it's very interesting to me, something that I notice when I'm out at Asian restaurants and hanging out with any of my Asian friends, is how differently everyone holds their chopsticks when they eat. It's kind of like handwriting, how everybody holds their pencil in a different way or their pens. Chopsticks seem to be the same thing. And so this is the way I use my chopsticks. I don't know. But by the way, this food was amazing. But yeah, I did want to share a little part of my adoption records. Like I said, when I'm strong enough and brave enough, I will read the full intake to you guys because again, it's a lot, but here's a little excerpt about talking about my food preferences.
As of February 3rd, the child weighs 10.4 kilograms and is 75.7 centimeters tall. She has some scars of chickenpox around the left eye and on the forehead, of a boil on the back of her head, of a skin disease on the abdomen, and one on the inside of the left wrist, which is unknown as to what had caused it. The child is not particular about food and eats well, whatever given to her, but isn't greedy. She takes 1/3 bowl of boiled rice mixed with soup, stew, with some baby cereals thrice a day between meals, and she enjoys fruits and junk food for snack. She has no problem in her digestion and moves bowels 1 to 2 times a day. After stool, she doesn't show any special response and is not toilet trained yet. She is still, when bathed, or washed.
It doesn't matter how many times I reread my adoption records, or the other day, John reading them just had me bawling, but every single time I just get overwhelmed with emotion. And I don't know if it's because I'm reliving these things that I don't remember, or if it's because now I am a mother and reading these things as a mother just breaks my heart. I can't even imagine my child in a place where they are being just addressed as the child. Very matter-of-factly and not as a person, not by name.
So I'm picking my daughter up from school right now. Didn't have enough time to finish my food, but I didn't want to leave it because it's so good. Wanted to share, it's not really even a funny story, it's because it's kind of depressing when I think about it, but my history with kimchi. I actually do know some about Asian culture and Korean culture and Japanese culture. I know that it seems like from my first video that this is my first foray into experiencing Asian things, but my parents, my adopted parents, I just want to call them my parents. I'm just gonna call them my parents because that's what I call them anyways, but I feel like I need to be specific to you guys. My parents were never opposed to me learning about Asian culture. They didn't have the means to ever take me back to Korea because there was 4 children in the family, and my dad was a minister and my mom was a school nurse for the longest time, so we didn't have a lot of money growing up. My mom was always encouraging of trying Asian foods, and if there was any type of international thing going on at the university there, she would take us. She was very, very encouraging about that, and so was my dad. And the story about kimchi is, I've always loved kimchi as an adult. As a child, however, I remember my first memory of kimchi as a child that I can recall was a kind of heritage day at school. These were other things that were really difficult for me to navigate, is when we would do family trees or cultural days or genetics, or like the family tree one killed me the most, that I was forced to participate in for grades. But there was like cultural day, like you would come in and you talk about your culture, so you'd get a lot of Irish and Polish and things like that because we live in America, and German and Swedish, and my parents I think are German and Swiss, I think, a combination of that. Korean was not one of them because I was raised in the Midwest. I lived in Illinois and then I've lived in Ohio. That's it. So I remember my mom wanting to be encouraging of my Korean heritage and her saying like, let's bring food in of your culture. And kimchi was like the easy one because you could find it in stores, and it was, you know, it's Korea, right? That's like, I think the national food of Korea is kimchi. I don't know. You'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. I remember bringing that in, and it was, again, my first memory of having it, and I remember not minding it. Like, it wasn't like, oh my god, this is so good, but I wasn't like opposed to it. But I remember everyone in the class making gagging noises and not liking it, and nobody touching it, and my friends being like, that is so gross, I don't know how you eat that. And I was so embarrassed that I was like, oh, I don't, you know, whatever, we don't have this in our house, like this is nasty, gross. Since then, I remember just like avoiding kimchi and honestly Asian foods and smells because my friends would make fun of them. You know, the kid who smelled like, you know, house smelled like food or ethnic food, like people made fun of that. And I just remember being so embarrassed and just going along with it to fit in. And then as I got older, and now that like anime and K-pop is so popular and it's so accepting, and the Americans have all taken that over, it's like it's okay now. But it's, I don't know why I was bringing this up, but it just, when I had the kimchi earlier, and now that I've started this journey with you guys, it just reminded me of how much of my Asian instincts, I don't know if that's the right word to use, but just all of what I have that is me, that's Asian or Korean or Japanese, all that I have that's like instilled in me from either birth or living in Korea for the first year of my life, I feel like a lot of that was either suppressed or pushed out of me because of my peers, because I was so longing to fit into this culture here and to be a part of everybody around me so that I wasn't made fun of and wasn't left out, which, side note, I was always left out and I was always made fun of. But I feel like so much of me that I wish I still had was suppressed and pushed away because of my urge and need to fit in with my peers here. And I just find it really sad. And I'm just so happy that I can now as an adult enjoy these tastes and these foods and be celebrated for it instead of made fun of. I hate that it took this long though. I'm so happy that we're here where the Asian culture is a popular thing, but at the same time it's like, what the hell, man? Why couldn't people be nicer back in the 90s and early 2000s, you know? I don't know.